Hello, everybody. It's Friday. That means it's time for another topic of the week. First things first, normal preamble. Last week's topic on painting miniatures. Like I said, I couldn't believe we had gotten that far without having that particular topic, but I was glad we did it. So many interesting comments and thoughts shared throughout both in the video and in the response videos. And the general thing that surprised me was just how many people said, yeah, I would probably paint now, regardless of whether there was a game on the other side. But there are a couple key interesting points that really surfaced reading over all the comments that I want to bring to the fore, which I thought were interesting and telling. The first is that you don't have to actually ever play for the existence of the game to actually matter. And that is to say, even if you're aspirationally a gamer, maybe you get a game in never, or you would want to if you could, you just don't have enough people around or a community or whatever, or maybe you only play rarely, once or twice a year, those people still paint miniatures with the idea that it's for the game. On a deeper level, the game's existence, its narrative, the fact that it is a thing and that there's a sort of line you can draw around it, informs some of your painting decisions, informs your inspiration, and makes it so you feel like you're doing something, like in painting the miniature, it's becoming part of something larger. That sounds kind of silly, but I get it. Like when you use that scheme, when you paint your host of Stormcast or whatever it happens to be, your Marauders, they become part of some bigger narrative in some small way, and that there's something appealing about that, even if you never actually get them on the table to roll dice. The other thing that was really interesting to me that sort of surfaced up to the top was that there's a trajectory to this, and I kept hearing it over and over and over and over. This is so many comments and videos. I started painting because I had to, or when I was younger because I had to, because I needed to play, and I painted for tournaments or games or armies. As I have gotten older or painted longer or time has gone on, as that trajectory has completed, or not completed, sorry, that's wrong to say, as that trajectory has advanced, there you go, that's the correct way to say it, I find that the hobby has become at least as important as playing the game, and it's, tipping to some degree, it's in there, to the point where I could see now painting, so people who might have been doing it for a long time were more favorable. I'm not saying this is like an automatic thing everybody follows. I'm saying I saw this narrative a lot. So it's interesting to me that the game is sort of the gateway drug into the painting, and then people realize they really like it, and it becomes sort of a way to de-stress or to do something creative or to have an outlet, and it becomes as valuable, if not more so, than the game in its own right. Really interesting stuff. So go back, look through those comments. As always, that video is linked down below. All right, so let's get to this week's topic. This week's topic, old Uncle Adam, he stole my thunder because he did the same thing I was going to talk about, but I'm not going to stop because of that. And I'm going to link his video down there because I thought it was very interesting, and it'll also set you up. So War Machine, Hordes, Privateer Press, whatever you want to say, they recently canceled, or have announced the cancellation, I should say, announced the cancellation of their Pressganger program, which was their community volunteer program. And basically this is a match as to the old Outrider program. Malifaux has a program like this, but the idea is you have these sort of community members who agree to do this work of teaching people the game and going to events and things like that, usually in exchange for product or prize support for sort of tournaments they run or help run or whatever, that kind of thing. There's a couple different natures to the various agreements that are out there, but it is what it is. And I think one of the common questions since GW's recent re-engagement into the community and very aggressive sort of community outreach, one of the questions that came up is, where's this program? Is the Outrider program or something like it coming back? And there was a lot of question that immediately came up around the internet over why the Pressganger program had been canceled. And ultimately, there's no real solid answer. There's a purported email and a press release they put out, which, basically has some reasons on it. Whether or not they're the real reasons, I'll leave that to you to find out. There's a Reddit thread that has allegedly the email that went out. I'm not a press ganger, so I don't have any copy of that email. I don't know if it's real, but there it is. But the the real question is it happening because of a lawsuit currently going against Wizards of the Coast? So the lawsuit against Wizards of the Coast is a class action. It's the second of its kind, and it's happening in California, and it revolves around a group of judges for Magic tournaments who are alleging that basically they are employees. And as employees, they deserve the rights and benefits that employees should earn. Things like meal breaks and stuff like that. Sort of basically their argument is that they're sort of overworked with no agreement of payment, and even though they're treated as employees, they have none of the benefits of being employees. I'll link down below to a really interesting discussion on it from a Thomson Reuters attorney blog write-up. It really interestingly addresses it. And if you read that write-up, as he points out, the National Labor Relations Board, the NLRB, this last year sort of rolled back the employer-employee definitions to pre-1984 standards, as he points out. And it basically means that people working in those kinds of conditions where there's somebody sort of defining the terms of their work are almost by necessity employees. Now, there's some room here and there's wiggle room in various places, but it's a pretty strong ruling. And I was actually aware of this previous to this article because it had come across in my professional life. And so it doesn't surprise me that it has trickled down here. The reason I'm talking about it is because, and I think what I want to talk about is, one, I think that most companies are pretty risk averse when it comes to litigation. You especially don't want to open yourself up when you can knowingly avoid class action lawsuits. So do you think that this kills any chance of, a new Outrider program in the immediate future? Because now that depending on how this suit goes, let me say this, if this suit were to end in favor, if it gets settled out, which it probably will, but if it gets settled out, or worse, were to go and actually have a ruling at trial and it were to go against Wizards, then definitely I would say this program is off. There will never be another Outrider program like that, period. Because nobody's going to open themselves up when there's precedent on the books for it. But do you think right now that basically we're not going to see this program because of the presence of these kind of suits? So there's question one for the topic. Two, what do you think is the best way, in lacking this? And the reality is we haven't had this program within, the Games Workshop space for a long time. So if that remains to be true, what would you like to see Games Workshop do instead of that? Do you want to see them, put out a lot more online resources to help, you just in your private time teach other people the games? Give you maybe resources like teaching scenarios and teaching videos and stuff like that, walking people through. They could pretty easily develop a suite of content to help anybody who's inclined. They could just throw it on their website or on YouTube, but they could take anybody who's inclined, and effectively you could, train yourself up to go out and recruit people into the hobby. Is that something you think would be valuable? Are you interested in it, or do you just think, nah, you know what, we'll handle this ourselves? Do you think we as the community should just step up here, handle it ourselves, continue to be, as I've always said, just really zealous advocates for the games we're passionate about? And by the way, I think that is always the case. The number one tool, if you believe in a game, regardless of what that game is, okay? I don't care what you're playing right now. If you believe in a game, the best thing you can do is be a zealous advocate for it by being overwhelmingly positive and sharing your passion and positivity with others. So, there you go. That's this week's topic. Are we going to see these programs go the way of the dinosaur? Does this lawsuit, does this sort of implication mean that we're never going to see a new Outrider program? How do you feel about that? And what would you like to see Games Workshop do to empower us to, help bring people into the hobby? So, as always, look forward to your responses. Comment down below. If you do a video response, that'll be linked down here, as I said, last week's video. So you can always return here and watch all the responses. Thanks very much for watching. We'll see you next time.